Hey, Doctor Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. This is not our normal episode number, but it is another roundtable with our writing team. So my name's Garry, as always, and joining me is...
Maria?
Matt?
Mark?
Harry?
Yay! Yes, it's another week where Adam, my co-host, is absent. You know what Adam's like. Here 1 minute, gone the next. You know what he's like, listeners, by now. So I hope you're all well, keeping safe, and you've had a cracking week, and that you've managed to do something Doctor Who...
Related!
Sorry, I missed that.
You guys are good. Minus Mark. All good. So, last week, due to Adam's absence, I thought, genius idea, we'll get the writers back on for another round table, which was awesome. So thank you guys for that for last week. This week, we're going to do the same thing, slightly different band of peeps though. So joining us back from next week, we have Maria, we have Matt, but joining us fresh to bask in the glory of technical gremlins, we have Mark and Harry. So I believe that, Harry, this is your first time on podcast.
It is, yes. It is indeed.
Don't be scared. Don't be scared.
I'm actually very excited. Yeah. This is great. I've been listening to this podcast for years, so it's quite surreal, really. But yeah, no, this should be good.
Nice one. Right, so the agenda for this particular round table is, so we put some thoughts in our Discord. We were thinking what we're going to talk about, and as always, these guys, a lot cleverer than I am, came up with some cool ideas for stuff to talk about. And seeing as Russell T Davies is in the news quite a lot at the moment, obviously for Doctor Who, one of the subjects that was suggested was let's come up with what we think is an underrated story or underrated stories from the Russell T Davies era, and why we think they are underrated. So a bit of an RTD chat, so we'll get into that in just a few minutes. But first of all, for the benefit of our listener who wasn't here last week, to listen to those guys talk about the big news about RTD coming back, or if you were here, sorry, to listen to that. Harry and Mark, I just want to get your thoughts. I'm not sure if you've spoken about it on your own podcasts or in your blogs or whatever, but just a couple of minutes to get your thoughts, because it's a big old whack of news. So, Harry, what are your thoughts on Russell coming back?
Well, like a lot of people at first, I thought it was fake. I thought it was another Daily Mirror fiasco, and it was just another rumour that was going to blow over. But then I quickly realised it was true, and it was a classic pinch me, I must be dreaming sort of moment. And I honestly think it's the best thing that could happen to the show right now. I know I wrote an article about singing my praises for the Chibnall era, but I don't think it's my favourite era of the show. And I'm just happy that Russell's coming back. He's someone who is still, amazing at what he does. And I think he's the one to bring Doctor Who out of the rough, I think. Mm-hmm. And as well, what's really special for me is that Russell's iteration of the show was kind of responsible for me being a Doctor Who fan. And so that was quite, that was a big turning point in my life. It's impacted a lot of things that have happened in my life. So it's quite nice, really, that he's back. It's it doesn't feel real. It still hasn't sunk in. And I think, I don't know whether he's going to go back to his old format. I don't know whether he's going to try anything different. It's kind of hard to tell at the minute. We've not really got anything to go on. But I think whatever he does with the show, whatever he does with the 60th, I have a strong inclination that it's going to be really good. So, yeah, good times, Garry.
Good answer. Mark, what are you thinking?
So, yeah, it's a funny one. I think there's a thing, isn't there, when you're a Doctor Who fan, that something really ostensibly positive comes along, and then you're also a bit like, Although, so I remember I saw the news and I was like completely dumbstruck. I never thought he would ever come back to Doctor Who. Like it felt like him writing Rose was like a nice little kind of ending to his time with the show. That kind of Target novelization. So then part of me was thinking, is this speaking to that kind of feeling that a lot of people have? Is that wouldn't it be better if Doctor Who was like it used to be when David Tennant was Doctor Who? And is this kind of what they've done? But then I've kind of gone, no, that's a cynical way to look at it. I think he is the man to take the show forward in the sense that he's a showman. Russell T Davies promotes a new Russell T Davies show. The cast don't generally do it. It's always Russell's on the one show, Russell's on Channel 4 News. He's sort of front and center. And I wouldn't be surprised if he is, as a lot of people have hypothesized, if he is going to oversee some kind of Star Trek style, Marvel style series of Doctor Who related shows. And that rather than kind of writing every single episode, he's actually going to oversee. Because I feel like he's not coming back to just write another series of Doctor Who. He's coming back to do something a bit more interesting to him as a writer. Because let's face it, he doesn't want to do the same old stuff that he's done before. So I'm really excited, actually. I'm really excited by the possibilities that it kind of opens up. But we still got 9-10 episodes of Doctor Who still to go, and I'm looking forward to that as well. It's good to the future of the show is in safe hands, I think, to paraphrase Richard Turndall in The Five Doctors.
Another good answer. So I think positive overall from you guys about his return. Yeah, which is all good. Okie dokie. Before we crack on with our underrated stories. Remember, listener, to follow this podcast for free. Listen for free in whatever podcast app you prefer to listen to your podcasts on. We're on all the apps and networks and so on. Just to search for the Big Blue Box, or head over to the website bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can listen to all the episodes on there for free. Plus, you can read all of the cool reviews and articles from this lot over there as well. So go and check that out. We're on the socials too: Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. So go and follow us on there. And we have a free Discord server. So there's a link on the website. Come and sign up to that and hang out with other Doctor Who fans, which is nice. Okie dokie. So from the RTD era, some underrated stories. Who's going to go first? Maria, my love. Seeing as this was your idea.
Yeah, I know. Okay. So when I kind of thought about this idea, right, I kind of thought, are there really underrated stories in the RTD era? Because obviously, we're always so there's a lot of positivity around his era. So I kind of thought, there must be some stories that are kind of underrated that, maybe deserve a second chance. So I kind of had a look, and I honestly couldn't find anything in Series 1. So, I mean, all my choices are from the David Tennant era. I couldn't find anything in Series 1. I think Series 1 is really, really good. So I couldn't actually pick a story that I thought was underrated, although possibly you might say that End of the World might be probably the weakest one out of that series. I mean, I like Series 1. So my stories are, as I say, from David Tennant. So I did make a bit of a list. We don't have to go through all of them, but the one I kind of gravitated to was Love and Monsters, because I think that's very much a kind of Marmite kind of episode. People either kind of love it or kind of hate it. But I really think it is actually a really well written story by Russell T Davies. I mean, he's obviously written it himself. But it's I sat and I watched it again recently, and I just thought, I mean, yeah, there are some silly elements in it. I mean, obviously, we can't do anything about the monster because it was drawn by a 7-year-old child. So there's not really a lot you can kind of say about that. But the actual, all the different elements around the story kind of come together. I mean, you've got Mark Warren, who's, a fantastic actor, and, I've always liked the stuff that he's been in, and, he kind of carries so much of the episode. And just the way that it kind of starts with, you know, him kind of addressing us directly, kind of goes into flashbacks, then it kind of, you know, and then he's telling the story. I just think it's really well crafted as a story. You know, there's lots of comic bits in it, but there's also a lot of quite sad bits in it as well. So for me, it's one of the ones that kind of I can watch probably over and over. And, you know, yeah, there are some bits in it, you know, that are maybe kind of a bit, you know, when you think about the gang of Linda and kind of, you know, is it poking fun at us as, you know, fans of the show a little bit? But I really enjoy it. You know, there's something quite joyful about it that I really enjoy. So, yeah, I mean, and Russell does this really brilliant thing, which he does through a lot of these stories, where he kind of links it into other stories that have happened. So you kind of get a sense of this kind of how these people are kind of connected to the world that he's created. So you've got Elton kind of being there when, you know, the Alton dummies were kind of coming out to shop windows, and, you know, and he, you know, he's obviously misses part of some of the other events, you know, that happen in London as well. And, you know, and it's all connected really beautifully, actually, because, you know, the way he meets Jackie and, you know, and, you know, Peter Kay is actually quite good as, you know, not as a monster, but he's good as Victor Kennedy, is all I'm going to say. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot more I could say about it, but I just really, really like it. And ELO, which is obviously a lot of the music that they use in it, you know, there's a nostalgia about that, because, you know, that was some of the music that was kind of around when I was growing up. I mean, it was kind of, you know, it's kind of familiar music to me. So it's kind of something that I really enjoy watching. Anyway, that's my pitch for it anyway. And I just think, you know, a lot of people don't really like it. And, you know, sometimes you read some quite negative comments about it, but I actually really enjoy it. And I think it is one of the underrated ones. So that was one of my first ones. There's a couple of others that I could go into, but, you know, maybe somebody else wants to kind of comment.
Okay, we'll go one each at the minute and see how much time we've got.
Yeah.
So, okay, Love and Monsters. Interesting. I expected this one to come up. I had it on my list to begin with, and then I took it off. Then I put it back on again, because it's a weird one to, because it's a Dr. Light episode. That carries with it its own kind of, you know, it changes the whole vibe of the episode because it's a Dr. Light one. So, the fact that it's such a mixed bag in terms of, if you ask any Doctor Who fan, what do you think about Love and Monsters? It's a Marmite one, isn't it? You'll either get it's great or it's awful. There's never that kind of, I'll sort of take it or leave it. People have got strong opinions on it. So I put it back on because, and I agree with you, Maria, I think because Russell does this kind of stuff really well, he obviously writes the Doctor character and the main cast and arguably a lot of the supporting characters so well, but he also writes this kind of interconnected little bit as well. So this episode that just lands out of nowhere, the Doctor's hardly in it, but it does link into the other stuff that's going on. It's got that really cool, like just a little snapshot of time of what was happening around that the story arc at that time. So yeah, I'm completely with you on that one. It's underrated because a lot of people skip past it when they're doing the watch through on series. Is it series 3 or 2? 2. Series 2. So people just skip past it when they're watching through like a bit of a marathon. They're like, oh yeah, Love and Monsters. So I agree with you. It is underrated, but for different reasons than other stories that are underrated when there's a Doctor in it. So, Mark, what do you reckon to Love and Monsters, dude? I think you and I were going to talk about this at the BFI at one point, but then we didn't.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So what do you reckon?
I like it, I've got to say, and I think Maria, you know, saying, is it poking fun at fans? Absolutely it is. I think Russell T Davies is on record as saying it's about those kind of days of the sort of local fan groups And there would always be one person that takes it too seriously and ruins it for everybody else, and that is Victor. And that is Victor Kennedy.
Yeah.
So I think he's great. I mean, Peter Kay plays a brilliant Ian Levine. What can I say? He's terrific. He's terrific in it. So yeah, I've got a lot of time for Love and Monsters, I've got to say. That's. I'll agree with you. I'll agree with everything that's been said so far.
And a great Ian Levine, love it. Harry, what do you reckon to this one?
Yeah, I really don't think it's as bad as people say it is. I never have. I think it was slightly jarring. I tried to think back to what I was thinking when I was 5 years old, watching this coming out for the first time, this series, and then this random week, the Doctor and Rose aren't having an adventure, and then it focuses on this other random guy. But then it calls back to previous things, and I think, if anything, I think it's exciting to have those episodes where the status quo is sort of shattered, and then we look at another angle of this universe. It makes me think. I know this isn't RTD, this is Stephen Moffat, but in Series 9 we had Sleep No More and we had Heaven Sent, which were two really experimental episodes. I know you don't like Sleep No More. I remember you panning that one in your podcast way back when. But it was different, and I think. Yeah, it's not a very profound point, but I think I like Love and Monsters because it sort of stands out. It dares do something different, and it didn't work for some people. Clearly, for some people, it really did. I'm just kind of like, yeah, it's all right, but it's really not that bad. I don't think. Yeah, it is. Yeah, underrated. Yeah, too much pan across the board, I think.
Okay, so Harry's a fan, not too bad. Matthew, what do you reckon?
Yes. So I'm on the fence, maybe more towards the liking it fence, side of the fence, but it didn't start that way. I remember when it first aired, I wasn't the biggest fan. I think it was probably because it was the first sort of Dr. Light episode we'd had in the new series, if that's right, I believe. And, I was, maybe 9, 10 at the time, thinking if it's not got the Doctor in it, so this is going to be boring. But watching it back, it's grown on me a lot. And there's a really nice storyline between Jackie and I can't think of his name. What is his name?
Mark?
Elton. It's Elton.
Yeah.
I do apologise. Elton, yeah. And there's a lovely art between there. And any more screen time with Jackie is very welcome. She's one of my favourite characters. If RTD can find a way to bring her back for whatever reason, I'll be pleased. That and Clive, obviously. But no, Love and Monsters has grown on me a lot. It's one of those, like I think Maria said, it's very Marmite. It's you either love it or you hate it. But for me, I'm going more towards the loving it side from coming from a hating it side before. Okay. If that makes sense.
So you had splinters in your bum for a while, and now
I did.
And now you've got 1 foot. Oh, okay, cool.
I've managed to pluck most of them out now. Yeah.
Good shout, Maria. Like I said, I thought that one was going to pop up, so that's a good shout. It's an obvious one because of the circumstances around the story and the obvious stuff, but a good shout to kick us off with. Okay, who wants to go next? Let's go to actually stick with Matt. What's your pick then for your underrated one?
So I'm torn really between two. So I'm going to go with The Runaway Bride, because I know that's not a lot of people's favourite Christmas special. For some reason, a lot of people think maybe it's a little bit slow in the middle, and a lot of people were unimpressed with Catherine Tate coming to join Doctor Who. Well, I'd like to see the state of their hats after they had to eat them, but I think now, looking back on it, it's just a fun romp. There's no overarching story. that you have to pay close attention to. It's just an hour of pure Christmassy fun with actual Christmas involved, unlike other Christmas specials. And it introduces Wilf, which briefly is fantastic, and it introduces Donna, which as everyone, pretty much everyone, I would say agrees, is fantastic as a companion. But I think the most part, I just think, yes, it can maybe a little bit slow in the middle, but I think mostly it's just a product of Christmas special joy that doesn't try to be anything that it's not. And it's just a fun hour of storytelling.
Okay. And it's an underrated one in your opinion, and so...
Yeah, so I think some people have said it slows down in the middle, and I'm not entirely on board with that.
Okay, so this is big spider lady, right? This is the Rachnos, if I remember.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. All right, Joe. Right, Mark. Spidery
Yes,
things.
hello.
Yes, hello.
This is one of my favorite Christmas specials, so I wasn't aware it was underrated. I stick this on at least every couple of years.
Once a week.
I think it's great. I think it's so much fun. I think the chemistry between Catherine Tate and David Tennant is brilliant, and obviously they traded off that for years afterwards, both in Doctor Who and other projects, because that friendship comes across, and I think that's always so great in Doctor Who. I mean, yeah, Sarah Parish is hamming it up as the Rachnos, but it's Christmas Day, who cares? And I think, maybe it does slow down a bit in the middle, but I think it kind of needs to, because I think it's building and building and building and building. There's a car chase, with the TARDIS, and then there's like an attack on the wedding with exploding baubles and all that kind of thing. I think it needs to take a minute for it to remind the audience that the Doctor's only just lost Rose about 5 minutes ago, and also that Donna's sort of bravado and sort of brash sort of front is covering sort of some more vulnerability and a kind of sense of loneliness and stuff like that. So I think it's a masterclass in sort of pacing and tone. I really like it. Sorry.
No, that's all good. It's all good. I mean, I'm in the same boat, I think. I wouldn't have put this one down as, mind you, the Christmas specials for Who, not a lot of them are that good, are they? Let's be honest. And I think this is probably one of the better ones. I think it's more the Matt Smith era Christmas specials that do it for me. They're just bloody awful. But I think, this one's not too bad, I would say, mainly because of Donna and Dave, Catherine Tate and David Tennant together. They're pretty sweet. Maria, do you watch this once a week like Mark?
Oh, I have to be honest, I agree with Mark. I mean, it is one of my favourite Christmas specials. It's probably one of the ones that I've put on the most. I don't really watch that many of the Christmas specials again, to be honest, not many of them. That's probably the one that I really enjoy watching, though. I think, there is a lot of chemistry between David Tennant and Catherine Tate, and they just kind of spark off each other. There's some really brilliant stuff between them, and I love that car chase along the motorway. I mean, that is just one of the things that I really enjoy watching. There's such a sense of triumph when he kind of rescues her from that, whatever it is, robotic Santa in the cab. I just love it. And I think there is something really joyful about it as well. There are some dark moments. I'm not so keen on the big spidery thing, but Sarah Parish is okay, but I think David Tennant and Catherine Tate really carry the story. They've got great comic timing together, and they really spark off each other, and I do watch it, I do enjoy it. I know Catherine Tate got a lot of stick about it because obviously she's quite brash in this one, and and then she got softened down when she came back to the series for series 4. she was softened a little bit, and she's a bit brash in this one. But you grow to love Donna. I think she's somebody that you might not like initially, but she kind of grows on you. There's something really vulnerable about her that I really enjoy. I think she represents a lot of people that perhaps are unhappy with their lives, but they don't really know what they want to do with them. And I really like that aspect about her. She's very down to earth as well. And she's got a crazy family as well. She's got, her mum's a bit mad, but yeah, I know. I really like the story. It's one of the ones I do watch. Probably like Mark, probably every couple of years. Okay,
yeah, cool. You make a very good point about the character. That's one of Russell's strengths, I think, is even though the character is like the not the star of the show, so to speak, but the primary, one of the primary cast members, all the way down to the supporting cast members only have moments on screen. They are really relatable when they need to be. So I think a lot of people identified with Donna who were in sort of jobs that they were unhappy with, and life's just a bit stuck at that point, and looking up at the stars, wanting something a bit more. So I think a lot of people could really relate to Donna's character at that point anyway. So yeah, good stuff. Harry, then, what do you reckon, dude?
Well, scrap watching this once a week. I'd watch it once a day. I love it. It's great. It's one of the better Christmas specials. I would mark it as such. And yeah, I pretty much agree with most of the excellent points that have just been made. I think, say what you will about the actor who plays the Arachnos, but I think that the animatronics and, like sort of the practical realization of that is incredible. I can't really think of anything in recent memory that was quite as good as that in terms of, practical effects or whatever. I mean, if anyone thinks of something, please shout up. But I thought that was particularly impressive. Like when I'm thinking back on it. And also this one episode really made me want to ride a Segway, because there's that funny bit where they're riding Segways. But to this day, unfortunately, I still haven't done that. So I better get amongst it.
Yeah, defo. That's a cool set. I forgot about the Segways. In fact, I haven't seen this one in ages. I don't think I stuck it on last Christmas, but yeah. Out of interest, Matt, what was the other one that you had on your list?
The other one was School Reunion.
Okay.
Now, might not be as uncommon as people not liking it as others, but I've seen quite a few comments saying it's one a lot of people skip.
Interesting. Okay. So
the Mad Fools.
Yeah.
I know.
Because they're two really good. Really good.
Yeah. In my opinion, also, yeah.
Okay.
It's Runaway Bride is a staple every Christmas, and like Mark does every week.
Yes, of course. Okay. Who wants to go next? Let's go on, Harry. What have you got for your underrated story?
Okay, so I actually found it really hard picking these, because I actually think most of RTD's era is really quite good and universally loved and praised and all the rest of it. But one particular episode which I think isn't necessarily underrated, but just one that people don't really talk about, is the Lazarus experiment in Series 3. I don't hear anybody say they love it or anyone say that they hate it. And I watched it again. Last time I rewatched it was last summer, because I had a little bit of a David Tennant marathon, as you do. I was in the mood for some 10th Doctor. And I mean, the Lazarus creature doesn't look amazing, but I think, as with any shoddy effect in Doctor Who, you've got to admire sort of the intentionality, the idea, like they try to be ambitious with it, and I really like that. I wish that they were as ambitious today with Doctor Who and not just boring. But we're talking about RTD at the minute, so I'll leave the Chibnall stuff. I think there are some really interesting thematic elements as well in this one. Like, I get like a theme of death and impermanence, because obviously that's the whole thing that Professor Lazarus is doing. And by the way, Mark Gatiss is great in this episode. I think he's just an underrated actor in general. Really, I think he's fabulous. I saw him live in a play once, and he was absolutely incredible. And yeah, he's very good in this. And and I think the motifs and the themes and stuff, that they strike more of a chord with me now because I'm a bit older and a bit more sort of I'm not that aware of what's going on around me.
A bit older.
Just a little bit. But yeah, I think this one's a good one. I really enjoy it, and there's some good arc stuff as well. There's a lot. All the episodes in series 3 like really fit nicely together as one kind of continuous story, and so you get the friction between the Doctor and Martha's family, and then there's that tease of Saxon at the end. It's a bit fuzzy in my memory, but yeah, no, I like this one, and not many people talk about it, which is interesting.
Okay, cool. So underrated because it's just not one that's on people's radar of conversation. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. This is one that I must admit, I take this one or leave it, I think. And I probably should, I think I'm due just another RTD rewatch at some point, because for the last couple of years, I don't know, I've just sort of picked the odd episode off the shelf that I'm in the mood for, but really should watch through and watch all the ones that are, that we've classed as underrated and stuff like that. So yeah, I agree. It's I don't talk about this one at all with anybody, and I certainly don't reach for it on the shelf. So yeah, maybe I'll give it a watch at some point soon. So okay, Maria, what did you think to the old Lazarus crazy scientist thing?
Well, I do enjoy watching it. I mean, David Tennant looks fantastic in a dinner suit, I have to say. it's worth watching just for that. I'm sorry, it is.
Here we go. It's like listening to my wife all over again.
I can't help it. He just looks so dashing. He looks fantastic. I actually really enjoy it. I think it is underrated. I think Mark Gatiss actually puts in a really decent turn, as Lazarus. I think I probably would have liked to have known a bit more about him as a man. Obviously they don't cover that an awful lot in the story itself, because it's obviously full of all the action pieces with him kind of transforming. But I think there's a moment where he's up on the roof with Tish, and he's kind of talking about looking out over looking out over London, I think, or there was a cathedral that he was that got bombed in the war, and so you learn a little bit about him, and I quite like that. I like it when we kind of learn something about the characters, because he's quite a main character in this. But yeah, I think it's an interesting one, because you've got Martha's family in this quite a lot as well. So we've got her mum and her sister and her brother, and they're all coming along and everything. So there's that little bit of tension between them all. And obviously the Doctor is trying to impress, which he doesn't seem to do very well. I really enjoy it as a story. I think it's not one I put on that often. I think you have to be in the right kind of frame of mind to watch it, but I would definitely watch it. I don't think it's a bad story, and sometimes people say that there are certain episodes that are fillers and things like that, which I really hate the term. But I don't think this is a filler episode. I think it's just a nice one that kind of slots into the series. But yeah, I really enjoy it. I think it's a good one, and there's a nice climax to it at the end as well. So yeah, I really enjoy it.
Okay, yeah, Martha's family, and they are in this one a lot. Old moany Francine, she's a bit miserable, isn't she? Oh, Martha's mum, she does whine a bit, but no, okay. So you like this one? Cool, Mark.
I I'm not. It's fine. I love the way Mark Gatiss steps out of the machine and goes, "I'm 76 years old." That's great. I love that bit. That's good. I could take or leave the rest of it. I think there is some good themes. I think, the sort of holding back death and the consequences of that are very interesting. And I'm not somebody who usually does this, but I get really hung up on the science of it. Like, I just can't get past it. I can't get past how he just turns into like a weird scorpion man thing. I just don't. It doesn't make sense to me. It's like, it's a latent gene that that's been passed on through human beings. That what we've got all got scorpion DNA that has now mutated because he's held back death. I think if it had been something a bit more horrific and more human and in shape, I think it would have had a lot more weight. But obviously they want to have a big monster, so they have a big monster. I think it's let down by the Lazarus monster for me. And it's just, it's a lot of just Doctor Who's 101, like running from laboratory to foyer to rooftop to cathedral. It's just quite Doctor Who by numbers for me, I'm afraid.
Okay. Yeah, I'll read you. Yeah, and I agree to an extent. Yeah, it's a bit run of the mill. But I guess it's just one of those sort of creature of the week kind of things where it's like a little isolated story where, like you said, they need to have the monster of some kind, legging around. It's if he came out of the thing and he was just as he was, just with a deeper voice or something, and I don't know, pair of glasses that were different and spiky hair, would have been like, they would have been slated for not being very creative. So you can see why they wanted to go with the whole monstery thing, meant to be threatening and all that lot. But I'll read you, Matthew.
Yes.
The Lazarus bit. Did you give us your thought on this one? I can't remember.
No, not yet. No, I
shoot.
I enjoy this a lot. Which is funny because, like others have said, it's not one I go back to all the time. I can't remember the last time I watched this one, but I do enjoy. There's some lovely bits in it. So we've got the scene where the TARDIS materializes in Martha's living room, knocking all of her things flying. I think that's really cool. There's the very satisfying moment where Francine slaps the Doctor and puts him deservedly kind of in his place for being kind of nonchalant and very, I'm the Doctor, I can do anything for a second. But then, for the rest of the episode, she does just kind of whine. And also, I think seeing this as a child, it had this horror kind of vibe to it. Maybe not so much as others, but seeing it for the first time, and especially in the church, or the cathedral, I should say, with the it's not a piano, but the organ playing. It kind of works really well in the church for the kind of spooky vibe to it. Mark Gatiss does a brilliant performance. He's probably one of those the characters that you kind of see most in Doctor Who, that kind of pops up all the time. I can't remember how many times he's been in it. I think, is it 3 or 4?
Yeah, it's got
There's all completely different.
Yeah,
completely different characters. But every single time, I think he gives a fantastic performance.
Okay.
So I like this one a lot.
So you're a fan. Okay, cool. Nice one. Good choice, Harry. Mr. Mark.
Cheers.
Over to you, dude. See us out.
Sure. So if you'll indulge me for a second, I'm just going to run through what I'm not going to say. So Gridlock, because we've already kind of covered David Tennant and Martha Jones and all that kind of thing with the Lazarus experiment. Smith and Jones for the same reason. And Partners in Crime was going to be my other one because, but we've covered Donna and the Doctor. So I thought, well, I'll go for something else that we've not really talked about. And that's the Christopher Eccleston era. So I'm going to go with The Long Game. Because I've always quite liked this, and I think it was the one. I know Maria said at the top of the show that End of the World. I think a lot of people love End of the World for that big reveal at the end of this story. And it's got the Mox Balhoun in it. It's great. But I think The Long Game, I remember at the time when it went out, because I'm older than some of the gentlemen here today. I remember that going out, and I was, I would have been about 19. And so I was in that kind of fan circle that was going out. And that was definitely the one that I think didn't land. Like, so it was the Aliens in London, World War III. People went nuts over the farting aliens and thought it was all very silly and didn't really like it. But The Long Game, people were like, yeah, it's fine. It felt like it was the first episode of new Doctor Who that was just kind of fine, throwaway Doctor Who. But what I like about it is I think it's kind of ahead of its time. It talks about a news network that is distracting everybody from, you know, the terrible things that are kind of going on with, you know, fearful news stories, and be scared of this and be scared of that, but don't question this terrifying monster in the ceiling and all that kind of thing. And also it does a thing that, you know, Doctor Who's tried once and failed miserably at, which is what is it like when somebody joins the Doctor and travels with the Doctor, but they're in it for their own ends. And I'm sure it doesn't necessarily, it's a bit silly, that kind of, you know, the little opening in the forehead that he gets as a result of his quest to kind of download all the knowledge in the universe from the future. But I really like it. It's a lot of fun. Simon Pegg's quite good in it and quite un-Simon Pegg. I feel nowadays, you know, it's Simon Pegg again, but he's a slightly more chilling, slightly kind of snarky villain. I quite like. I love the Jagrafess. It's what my girlfriend referred to. She goes, "Oh, I remember watching one as a kid, and it had a meat ceiling with teeth." That's a great description of a Doctor Who monster. You know, that's meat ceiling with teeth. It's proper Doctor Who. It's proper, you know, and this is one of the ones that Russell wrote first. You know, he wrote this for, I think, Colin Baker or Peter Davison or something, and pitched it to the BBC, and it never went anywhere. So, yeah, I think it's only got better with time, apart from the whole Bruno Langley thing. But I think it's probably best we don't dwell on that. But other than that, yeah, I think it's really good, and I think it's worth revisiting, really, because Eccleston's fantastic in it. He's really hit his stride by that point, and I've always been a big fan.
Okay, that's a good shout. Yeah, so I think Eccleston had not had a ruck with Russell on that particular block of shooting. It seems to have been he was on fire. Yeah, by that point he was absolutely rocking and rolling it. So he's great in it. Yeah. And I agree with Simon Pegg as well. It has become that thing now, hasn't it? Where regardless of what film he's in or TV series, he's just playing Simon Pegg, but just, you know, with a slightly different motive for whatever the character's doing. So it is good to see him play a completely different character, and a bit chilling as well. He has got that cold, both visually and figuratively, you know, that cold, icy kind of feeling to him. So that's a good shout, dude. And it's one that I'm glad you've gone back to the Eccleston era as well, because I had 3 on my list. I took Love and Monsters on and off a couple of times, and I had this one on there, The Long Game, and I'll tell you my other one in a second. But yeah, I had this one on there as well for that very reason, where Chris Eccleston just great in it. It's one of those cool little ingredients where they all come together nicely to make just a real cool episode of Doctor Who. It doesn't have to be too serious. It doesn't have to be too, you know, doesn't crumble under the weight of its own series that it's involved in. It's just a real cool thing. So yeah, good shout. Right. So Harry, do you like this one? Yes or no? And whatever your answer is it underrated, as Mark thinks?
I've got to be honest with you, I don't actually remember a thing about this one. I can't remember it. I don't even know what it's about. I'm trying to cast my mind back. And
you mean you don't understand what it's about from meat ceiling?
No, I know the episode. Simon Pegg, obviously Bruno Langley's character comes over from Dalek, and there's that whole thing with the brain, and I mean the Jagrafess is iconic, but I could not tell you where the Jagrafess comes from, what it's doing there. That's really bizarre. I can remember all the other episodes in that series really well, but for some reason The Long Game, it's elusive to me. I don't know why. So I guess maybe that's a sign that I don't like it as much because I don't remember it. But I'd be fascinated to go back and watch it now because and figure out what all these snippets that I remember, how they all come together. But yeah, I guess at this moment for me, it's a slightly forgettable one.
Okay, Maria, you like this one?
Yeah, I do actually. I think it's really interesting that you've got kind of Adam, who really isn't the ideal companion, and he does all the kind of rookie mistakes that anyone would probably do if they were kind of overawed by the experience of kind of traveling with the Doctor. He's kind of he's not seeing it with a sense of wonder like maybe Rose is. He's kind of, like you said, he's out there for maybe himself, kind of seeing what he can get out of it. And I find that quite interesting. I like the contrast between him and Rose, and kind of, obviously he ends up with a great big spike in his head. And, it does make you wonder how he would have got out of that eventually, when he ended up back in the 21st century. But yeah, that's probably another story. But
you want to know the answer to that, Maria?
Yeah, go on.
So for the 50th anniversary, spoiler alert, but for the 50th anniversary, Titan, I think it was either Titan or IDW, whoever had the license at the time, did a 50th anniversary comic strip in which each month it was a past Doctor, and it would end with one of their companions being kidnapped by this mysterious hooded figure. And it was revealed that the mysterious hooded figure was an older Adam who was taking revenge on the Doctor.
No way.
Wow.
That is hilarious.
Adam. Okay.
That is a brilliant fact, actually. That's brilliant.
Adam. Maybe it sounds quite harsh, but there are certain characters that do put people off certain episodes, and I think, yeah, bless him. I think people just didn't really take to Adam. I think maybe he had, visions of running off with the Doctor, and being another companion. I'm talking about Bruno Langley, of course, not the character. So yeah, it's weird that certain characters put people off whole episodes. Bruno, anyway, yeah.
But yeah, what I also like about this episode, it's kind of you don't kind of realise how it kind of sets up events for what happens in the finale at the end of the series, because obviously the Doctor has to kind of sort out the mess that he's left behind, which he doesn't realise he's done at the end of this episode. So that's actually quite interesting, and the idea of kind of having all this information kind of fed directly into your brain, so you're kind of like a processor, is actually quite horrifying. So I do enjoy it. It's not one that I would put on probably that often. I would probably, if I was doing a rewatch of Christopher Eccleston, I probably would put it on. It's one that I've probably watched maybe 3 or 4 times, but it's not one you gravitate to automatically. But I think it's a decent episode, definitely.
Cool. Matt, what do you reckon?
Yeah, so much like Harry, I find this one really forgetful. I do like it, but I forget. I've forgotten a lot about this one. But I think, like you were saying, a lot of it is to do with the fact that I'd never clicked with Adam. I just think that maybe they could have introduced Captain Jack a bit sooner. It kind of felt like they just wanted to test the waters a little bit with a 3-person TARDIS crew. But Adam was not the right pick, in my opinion. But then again, he only appeared in 2. Dalek, he didn't feature that much in. So that one I can rewatch all the time. But then with The Long Game, you kind of feel a bit sorry for him in a way, because the Doctor does kind of just abandon him as soon as they get there, and he's left to his own devices. So first time on an alien planet, he's got all of these different things. I can't blame him 100% for being kind of forced into getting this special upgrade that he gets and ruins his life forever. But at the same time, yeah, he's not the character that I would want sticking around. And yeah, I'm glad he doesn't. But there's a lot going on in this story. So it kind of, I don't know if it kind of doesn't make any sense because it's quite forgetful at the same time. But no, I do like it, but I don't remember a lot of it.
So you're on the same boat as Harry, really?
Yeah.
Bit of a... Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So, yeah, this is another one that, as I mentioned earlier, with the Lazarus Experiment, it's another one that I don't really reach for too often. But I do think it's a really good story. I do think it's a good one. So, yeah, as I mentioned, I think an RTD era rewatch is in order because there's probably quite a few episodes that you could go through and think, oh, cool, remember that bit? That was awesome. And, oh, that was crap and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, I think another one's in order. I might do that. Might do that in a couple of weeks' time. Or no, I might wait until Series 13's been and gone and have some Doctor Who to watch after that. Because I think that might be dropping the next couple of weeks. So, yeah.
I mean, we're going to have a very sparse year in 2022 with only 3 new episodes. So maybe that would be a good time to go back and watch the old ones.
Exactly. Yes. Okay. So I think, right. So you guys, I'm not going to I'm not going to do a round on my choice, but just to let you guys know that what I settled on was the Unicorn and the Wasp from Series 4. Just because it's in the same kind of ilk as Love and Monsters to me. It's got that kind of comedic, jovial, little bit slapsticky kind of feel to it. But it's a really sharp script and it's really funny where it needs to be. And it's got a couple of emotional little scenes in there. And yeah, I just think it's a really entertaining watch. And I think people steer clear of it for the kind of superficial funny stuff. But I think there's a little bit more depth to it. And I kind of discovered that on a rewatch after 2 or 3 times. So yeah, I think that is an underrated one for sure. But I think the reason why I've seen it quite a few times is because my wife really likes that one. So she's like, hey, let's watch that one. I'm like, oh, okay. So I think after being, made to watch it more than a couple of times, I did get to see the depth of the characters and what was going on underneath there with some of the characters. So just a very quick thumbs up, just round the table. Harry, yes or no on Unicorn and the Wasp?
Absolutely yes. Love it. Couldn't agree more.
Maria?
Yeah, absolutely. I love this. This is such an easy watch for me. Yeah, definitely.
Marky?
Because it'll annoy young people on Twitter, yes, I love this. This is great. And Gareth Roberts is a great writer with some questionable opinions.
Matt, not to upset people on Twitter, yes or no?
Yes, definitely. The chemistry between David and Catherine is fantastic in this one. I put this one on often.
Of course you do. Right, cool. Well, I think we should wrap there I was in force of habit there. I was going to say we should wrap there for 200 and whatever, 300, whatever it's going to be. But it's not. We're going to wrap there for round table number 4. Thank you so much for coming back to another week and listening to the Big Blue Box podcast. Slightly different one. This one, the old round table, getting the writers in, getting their opinions on stuff. We don't steer clear of the big issues on this podcast. So stuff to talk about, opinions to be had, memories to be made, Twitter followers to be shattered at certain opinions. So yeah, thank you very much, guys, for taking time out of your evening to sit and waffle about Doctor Who. I know there are worse things to do, but I know you're busy as well. So thank you very much for taking the time. Just to recap then, so Maria, she went with Love and Monsters. Matt, he went with The Runaway Bride. Harry, yours was The Lazarus Experiment. Mark, The Long Game. And I settled on The Unicorn and The Wasp. So some rather interesting stories there. Before we wrap up, just a quick reminder to follow our podcast on whatever podcast app you listen to your podcasts on. You can do that via Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that stuff. Just do a search for us if you can't find us immediately. Or just head over to the website, bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can link off to all that stuff. And if you've got a minute to leave a rating or a review, that would be awesome, because it helps us out loads and loads. We're on the socials too, links on the website, and we've got a free Discord server. So go and sign up to that and chat lots of Doctor Who stuff with other Doctor Who fans. It's all good. So, Mark, I know you're a busy chap outside of the Big Blue Box, so where can people find your stuff outside of us?
You can find me on Twitter at oldmancrondas. I program the Margate Film Festival if you're in and around the southeast of Kent. That's happening at the end of October, and I also host the Boozy Doctor Who podcast on the Time Lash as well. So there's some stuff. Awesome stuff. Looking forward to that, dude. The end of October. It'll be good. Harry, you write your own blog as well, don't you? Do you still write that? Do you still do stuff?
Yes, I have my own website, harrymarciniak.com. You can find out about all of my acting and creative work on there if you so wish, and there's links to my social media there as well. Super duper. And Matt and Maria, your stuff is available on our website, of course, bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. So go and check that out. So guys, it's been awesome as always. We will catch you on the next round table, but until then, you're going to do it. I know you're going to do it. Remember,